He holds a degree in mechanical engineering and a Master of Business Administration, and his impressive career includes working at renowned companies such as Mahindra, Wadlow, and ITP Aero. Today, Juan Pablo will discuss the topic of nearshoring, explaining what it is and the advantages it brings to today's global market. Let's give a warm welcome to Engineer Juan Pablo Ramirez Resendiz with a round of applause.
Thanks to everyone for signing here. It's going for me an honor to be here present. So today we're going to discuss about the nearshoring. All the slides are in Spanish. However, the presentation is going to be performed in English. Once again, thanks for receiving me. So starting with specifically what we are talking about nearshoring and the opportunities and the challenges that we are facing here in Mexico. We are talking about a phenomenon. The nearshoring, as we are reviewing it here in Mexico, is a recent and not that recent strategy that is performed by several companies all around the USA and Canada, specifically. What we are facing since pandemics is that the supply chains that we used to have, all located in Asia, call it China, India, whatever other country you can call, is that all these were struggling a lot because of the lockdowns that were present since 2020 to 2022. So the strategy here is to regularize all that strategical partners or suppliers from Asia to Mexico. Why is that? Because what we want to do here is to reduce the cost, to reduce the lead times, to reduce all the movements that we were having in the past from China, India, and the other countries. So here, what we can see is that we are moving from China to Mexico several of the supply chains that we are having at this moment. So why is that important? For the country in general, in Mexico, what we are seeing here is that we used to have an increase in the ingress or the market in Mexico that was rapidly going on. However, in the crisis of 2008, we have a reduce on the income for the country. Then we started to have an increase that was gradually giving a best performance to Mexico. Going here, what we can see is that the tendency here is that for 2026, we were supposed to have the same income that we are having in 2022. So if we were having the same incomes in the country for sales of goods and services in Mexico, we wouldn't have that until 2026, but due to all these phenomena of nearshoring strategies, we are having it right now since 2022, approximately 2023, and we are speeding up all that increasing in the economics of Mexico. That is why we are in a rush to have all that located here in Mexico and make sure that all that business be located here. So what we can see here too is the exportations that we're having. So all the exportation and exportations are the main metrics that we are having in the economics of Mexico, which are important for all the markets. And also here the comparison between the exportation and importation that we're having in the country. Why is that important? Because it's like we all have economy. We have ingress and we have outcomes. If we have an outcome greater than our income as a person, we are having problems, right? So Also, as a country, as a whole economy, if we have more expending, we are spending more than what we are receiving, that means that we are having a problem. So here, you can see in 2024 is less, but that's because this data is from July. So we are spending 5 months of the year. So here, some other of the important incomes, or the important insights that we have here. What are we spending according to INEGI? These are the main importations that we are having in 2020 and 2024. Okay? So in 2020, our main supplier as a country was the United States. At this moment, it's China. We are having a transition of all the economy in Mexico. That's why this is important to be really aware of where is the money coming to our country. Because that means, as you all may know, that having the money means having the power for making decisions. So the decisions that are being made here in Mexico, you know from where are coming? From China at this moment. Several companies, as here in Mexico here in Querétaro we have Nippon Plastics, which is a brand that performs that manufactures all the steering wheels, inertical wheels for a lot of vehicles made by Nissan, by BMW, are being manufactured here, but all those are Chinese companies. The external or the foreign investments here in Mexico mainly are coming from China at this very moment, instead of the USA. Here are the exportations. And here, as you remember, the title of this presentation is Opportunities and Challenges. So, as you can see here, the difference between 2020 and 2024 is that we are coming from a 79.6% of exportations to the United States to an 83.1% of the exportation that Mexico makes. So the income, all the money that is coming as a sale, as a revenue to Mexico is being made in the United States. And it's increasing and increasing every day. So we're bringing goods and raw materials from China, we're exporting finished products or goods to the United States. But it's growing and growing every day. So remember, challenges. Here you can see the first one. We are totally dependent on the United States as a customer. And we are talking about the whole economy of Mexico. What are the products that we are exporting? Or what are the products that we are having as an economy here in Mexico? Well, the main products that we were performing in 2020 were related to machinery, components of machinery, metal, and some other products made of steel. Specifically in the area of the border, called Nuevo León, Baja California, and Tamaulipas. Okay? So that's the main area that we were having in 2020. But as you can see, we are growing in this specific square that used to be here, and now it's here. It's growing all over. What is that? Is all the lubricants, derivatives of all fluid, all what we need to start our machinery. We are becoming more and more one of the countries that are manufacturing all the derivatives of the oil. What company does that? We all know it. Pemex. Pemex is becoming one of the greatest strategical partners for all the companies in the United States and Canada. So it's important to know that, because that doesn't make sense that It's broken, basically, that company, right? But, as you already heard, I'm a mechanical engineer, and we are in the week of the engineering. If we were all this speaking was about economy, money, which is important, right? But we are engineers, and what we do and what we like is the engineering. What are the opportunities or what are the benefits that we can have as engineers here? One of the main areas of development that we can find is Industry 4.0. I don't know if you have heard, what is that? Does anyone know? No? Well, the Industry 4.0 is related to having no a single person in a factory. All automated, all standardized by machinery, by software, and all the processes are performed by robots. Okay? You may say, that's something that doesn't look good for me to have a job, right? Okay, that's fair enough. But the reality is that, as you may hear in the future, in the next steps of this presentation, is that Mexico does not have the capacity in staff, in personnel, in people, to compete neither with India, neither with China. We are dependent of this. We don't have the people, the hands, to manufacture the amount of goods and services that China and India can perform by themselves. The next one is the infrastructure of digital engineering. What does that mean? Have you ever gone to a place and you want to pay with a card, credit card, debit card, or whatever, and they can't? You only can pay with cash? That's the lack of digital structure. And in Mexico, we have a lot of lack of digital infrastructure. And that's some of the areas that we have to improve by ourselves. Call it PayPal or something Mexican. Why not? The next one would be in the software engineering. What is the difference between the infrastructure and the engineering of the software? Can you figure out something? What would be the difference between having infrastructure in digital and having software engineering? Cost. Speed? Yeah, it's more related with that. But what we call infrastructure is hardware, it's physical, we can touch it. But when we talk about software engineering, we cannot touch it with our hands. We are talking about something that is automated, that is programmed to perform a task, a specific task. You all have that in your pocket, right? But the thing here, and important to see, is that all that, call it digital infrastructure or call it engineering software, is not being in Mexico. It's not made here. And that's something that is stopping a lot in our development in the nearshoring strategies. Why is that? Because we have a lot of companies, and I know it because I've been there, that are still making inventories, are still making purchase orders, are making manufacturing orders with paper. Right? So, how can we make sure that we are meeting the expectations of our customers and the expectations of the market if we have all the traceability made in paper, that we cannot share it instantaneously with a customer in the UK, in China, in Spain, US, Canada, or whatever country be. So that's important to be aware of that. Integration can. That's something that I really like because I'm a mechanical engineer. I don't do it anymore. I used to do it. I made it for 5 years. But the important here, and something that I was speaking with a customer last week, was that we are not having the manpower here. All the guys that can perform that specific task at a global and a class world level are not in Mexico, even if they are Mexican. I met like 5 of these guys. These guys were really good in thermal analytics, aerodynamics analytics, stress analytics, and design by tolerance. Those guys were excellent. You know where are all of these? In the UK, in Canada, in the US. Why is that? Because they cannot perform that kind of task here. Are some few companies that can perform this kind of engineering. And I have received a lot of requirements to find suppliers that can perform that kind of task. Not just doing a drawing, not just doing a model in 3D. Making sure that we have the certainty before we go to the workshop floor that this is going to work. That is not a piece of shit. That is going to work without manufacturing in the first time. That's something that we don't have the certainty. And that in Mexico, I only know 5 companies that can perform this kind of work at a class world level. ITP, General Electric, Honeywell, and some other that I don't know. They don't sponsor me, so I don't want to mention. The next one, semiconductors and advanced electronics. Guadalajara is the center, is the Silicon Valley of this here in Mexico. They have been performing harnesses, wirings, electrical connectors, and a lot of those items for several years. Let's say approximately 50 years. But recently, call it 5 years approximately, they have started to develop a Silicon Valley there. They want to perform the first semiconductor and processor here in Mexico. Have you ever purchased an Apple stuff or whatever? When you open it up and bring the decals, what it says? Designed by Apple in California. Right? And manufactured, I don't know, in Taiwan, China, whatever. Well, what they want to do is, when you open up that box, it says designed by whatever company in Guadalajara. And that's something that we want to happen. At least I want. Now the challenges. We were speaking about some of the good stuff that we can have. But the truth is that the challenges, I see them every day. What are the challenges? The infrastructure. Do you know what is that? Have you ever seen one of these? Right? Yeah? If you don't live in Mexico. That's one of the problems. If you ever go to Monterrey, besides of saying hi, you can be watching this every meter of this. Why? Because there's a lot of trucks, a lot of transportation of metal, steel cords, and wherever. So, also, some of the lack of infrastructure that we have in Mexico is related with the goods. The way that we transport all the services, goods, people is by truck or in a bus. That's the 95% of the transportation that we have in Mexico. We don't have any initiative to have trains, which is the cheapest way to transport. and by sea. But the thing is that we don't have any river or sea or lake that crosses the whole geography of Mexico. So the most important or the fastest way to have that is in train. Recently we have had some initiatives by the private sector, by some companies, that are investing a lot of money in the trains, lines, and the trains, and all that infrastructure to make faster the way that we make to pass all that material in the border. In any border, because we don't only have the border with the United States, as you saw, we have sales to the United States, but from where are coming all the raw materials that we are using? From China. And from where that is coming to our country. Manzanillo, Veracruz. And another port, I don't remember right. Lázaro Cárdenas. Exactly. Manzanillo and Lázaro Cárdenas are the most important ones. Yeah. What's the other challenge that we have here? Because of the energy, we have a really expensive energy compared even with the United States. What we can do at this moment is to make, and this is one of the focus, and if you want to make a business, go here. This is the most important. It's going to grow a lot. Why is that? Because our energy system is obsolete, not competitive, and expensive. Does that mean that is the fault of the government? Because the CFE is the one that controls all the energy here in Mexico. Maybe we can say that, but the truth is that all the infrastructure is not made in Mexico. All the, just call it Condomex, is the only company that performs material for the electrical, not electronic, electrical industry here in Mexico. It's the only company, Mexican company. All the rest, United States, Canada, Europe. So we don't have a difference of China or a difference of India, local suppliers of those specific items. If you go to China, you can find a China Eaton, a Chinese General Electric, or if you go to India, you can find an Indian General Electric, you can find an Indian Honeywell, you can find an Indian Bombardier. But here in Mexico, we don't have that. That's one of the biggest problems that we have here, specifically with the supply chain of local suppliers of this energy. And that's going to be one of the biggest risks that we have in the nearshoring in our country. The next one would be safety and balance. I think that we all know that, at least from the news. Corruption, we already know that too. And some other important thing here is some pressure in the labor cost. Why is that? Since 1990 until 2 years ago, the growth of the minimum salary was basically nothing. And even though the growth of the economy, as you could see in the first slide, was really low. Does that mean that we have to invest in all salaries and then we are going to grow the economy? Maybe. But that also creates inflation. That makes all the cost of all the things to go higher and higher every day. As the people or the person that makes the purchasing of the groceries in your head, how is going that? The having more money makes you to spend more. And to spend more makes that all the supply chain is going to be more expensive. Call it food, call it transportation, call it energy, or call it whatever you want. And now, our riders are apocalypse. What can destroy all that initiative here in Mexico? what can destroy all the dream of having a good performance in our industry are those four. It's not even us, because we can have all the time of the world to make sure that we have the right processes, the right infrastructure, the right investments, the right laws to make all this to happen. But these guys already have it. And the only strategical strength that we have is our location near and next to the United States and Canada. That's the main and strategical strength. Because all these guys, inclusive this guy that is inside of the United States, Texas, is pulling away a lot of external investment from Mexico. A lot. All the companies that we were having to have in Nuevo León decide to go there, even Tesla. Why is that? Customs, taxes, and all the political issues that we are having. Caused by what? By violence, corruption, and all those stuff, lack of infrastructure, cost of energy, and all that is related. But we can take all the time to solve those issues, but these guys already have those solved. Specifically this, and this. This guy does not have all the issues resolved, but had a huge amount of people, a huge amount of manpower that can solve it faster than us. One example, I made a quotation, an RFQ of approximately 100 items of sheet metal, mechanical, whatever. I made that bid with India, 3 suppliers in India, and 4 suppliers in Mexico. The 3 suppliers in India were having the quotation the next day that I sent that RFQ. The next very day. I don't know how they did it. Probably only $3, oh, $4, or whatever. You know how long it took for the Mexican suppliers to that quotation? 4 months. Why is that? Oh, it's in vacations. The guy can make the quotation. Oh, I lost the information, I lost the drawings. I don't have the material, I need the quotation from the material, and the material from where it comes? From China. 100 items, 4 months. Here. 100 items, here, 1 day. Only quotation. Impressive, right? Really, really impressive. Benefits. We were speaking about what is that and what it can be. But what can I resolve instead? If I trust in this new initiative in Mexico, in this new phenomenon that we're having, how can I participate? Okay. The benefits here would be the investment of foreign companies. That means more companies here, more factories here, more jobs for all of us. More opportunities of making business with the external companies. Innovation. As I told you, we cannot compete in manpower with China and India. If you have ever been there, it's massive, the amount of people there, everywhere. So we cannot compete with that. The only gun that we have right now is this: innovation. Innovation, innovation, innovation. Then, what's another benefit? We reduce immigration. As I mentioned it, we used to have 10 really good guys that making aerodynamics performance testing or analysis in ANSYS. And all those guys do no longer live in Mexico because they took them away. UK, Canada, US, Spain, all of these guys went away. The next benefit that we can have is the main reason why we cannot compete with China. They already have this. They already have the knowledge. They already have the technology. For almost 80 years, they were the factory of the world. That's how they call it in the United States. China is the factory of the world. All you want to make, go to China. If you have ever been there, you can see the industrial parks, the industrial areas. It's like a market. Do you know what is a tianguis? Okay, it's like a tianguis. I want to do this thing. You can go away or go out of the factory, and all these guys are negotiating the prices of the steel, of the bolts, of the fasteners, nuts, and whatever you want in real life. Company with the gains outside of you. But you, if you're the owner or a company here in Mexico, you cannot do that. Why? Because nobody manufactures bolts here in Mexico. And I know it because I tried.
What, sorry?
Bolts, tornillos. Nobody manufactures that. All the toolings, the manual toolings, I tried because I used to work in Mahindra, or Stanley Black & Decker, and we were planning to transfer all the screwdrivers, destornilladores, to Mexico. Because all of those were manufactured in China, all of them. All you buy here in Mexico, all the purchases of screwdrivers that you can purchase here in Mexico are made in China. That's it. Even of the Mexican companies. That's funny. Super, Urrea, manufactured in China. Then the manufacturer here in Mexico. How do I know that? Because I talk with those guys. We try to make that exercise with them. Hey, super, here are the business from Stanley Black & Decker for doing the screwdriver, all the screwdriver. $200 million per year business. They said no. Why is that? Because I own manufacturer my own screwdriver. And that's it. We are not in the business of being manufacturer of a third party. We manufacture our own stuff. And that's it. Okay? Fair enough. And you can say, oh, it's their business. They can take that decision. $200 million, do you want it? That's fine. That's good. But the thing here is that in China, they had 50 opportunities of doing that, reducing their cost. What did they do? They canceled the project. It stays in China. All the business here is still in China at this very moment. Why? Because neither Cooper, neither Rivera, neither Puerto, that is all in the north of the country, didn't want to make that. And that was the initial business. Because Stone Black & Decker has over tooling, agricultural items. It's a huge, massive company. But all is made in China because we didn't want to change our mindset and say, hey, what's the problem? I can have their technology here. But these guys already have it. They already know how to make all of that and cheaper than us. The next benefit that we can have, education. You are here to be educated, to have more knowledge, to have more opportunities in the world. Unfortunately, there are zones of the country that cannot have that opportunity. And I know it because I've been there. But that means that having this strategy of nearshoring, being part of that, will increase our capacity to have more universities, more college, more whatever you want to call it, to make sure that we can increase our capacity to educate our people and have a better place for us to develop this. What are the causes? If we have that transfer of technology, that education, we receive that amount of money in investments that our friends that Correa And Trooper didn't want 200 million. Do you want 200 millions of dollars in your check amount? Would you like to have them? They didn't. They didn't want it. What can bring that? Social development. All that is strategy and all this is planned for having and make sure that we can develop a social strategy. We have some of the countries that cannot have that opportunity. In Nuevo León, where I'm living right now, we have a lot of companies. We open approximately 10 companies per day. I have my own. But there are some other parts of the country that cannot have this. Why is that? Because they don't have the access to neither of these two first. They don't have the access to education, and they don't have the access to the technology, and neither to the transfer of the technology to the country. So, the nearshoring phenomenon and the strategy is not only about making sure that we can serve the United States or Canada or bring some companies to Mexico. That means a whole strategy to make sure that we can have some of what China did. But for doing that, we need to make sure that first of all, we can change our mindset. That we don't be Urrea, that we don't be Trooper, that say, hey, here's the business, just a little bit your machine. Oh no, thank you. I don't do that. Some other part that we can invest. New companies, you can create your own company. Sounds complicated, and it is really complicated because of all the bureaucracy. You need a lot of paperwork to create your company. But it's something that we can go through. It's complicated but not impossible. And if we push all the government, all our representatives to make this faster, it's going to happen. But if we all of us say, oh, I don't want to make a company, that's it, the things are never going to change. The next, have you ever heard about this? Vibra Monterrey? Yes? No? It's a way to invest in industrial parks in Mexico. You can only have, it costs the title 12 pesos, 12 pesos, each title. And it increases their value, and decrease their value. It's like stocks of the company. But it's sustained in real estate industrial parks. All the industrial parks in the north rent for these guys. They have investment in the whole country. They buy and they give you the rent for having the title. It's not a huge amount of revenue in the rent. Yeah, but you're not investing $5 million in a factory, in the building of a factory. You can invest since 11 pesos at this moment. I don't remember how's the title. You can see it in the trade market right now. The next one, we said that we were having lacks of infrastructure. Well, if we bring more companies here, call it Mexican, Chinese, or wherever, we can push our government to make this, to invest in this. Like 2 days ago, it was signed the train from Mexico City to Querétaro City. Do you know when that project started to be told in Mexico?
10 years ago.
10 years ago? With Peña Nieto, you remember with that? Well, that was not the first time that this project was talked about. I was not even born when that project started to be talked about. It was part of the National Plan of Development in 1977. The train between Mexico and Querétaro City. And never was pushed by no one. Until Peña Nieto came here and said, oh, I'm going to make it. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to make it. And 2 days ago, finally it was signed to be built in the next 2 years. Why is that? Because we have a reason. Because we need that. If there's no need, we cannot make it, and we won't make it. And now we have the reason. Why is that? They're nearshoring this trust. And now it's signed to be the train between Mexico. The plan is to sign the train between Mexico and Monterrey. Let's see if that happens already. Some other ways that you can go through all of this and you can be part of this phenomenon since this very moment. Consulting, if you know something about border offices, customs and whatever, you can be there. If you do something about CAD/CAM, you can be part of that. You only need to make really good in what you do. Innovation hubs. What I told you, that was the only way that we compete with China and India. Innovation, innovation, and innovation. That's the only way that we compete. There's no way that we compete with cost. Because if you get a customer with cost, you lose it by cost. Always there's a way, there's always somebody that is going to be cheaper than you. That's a rule. You can always find someone cheaper. Always. In any industry. In any industry, but in the wafer industry, that is the machine that makes the chips, there's only one supplier in the world, and it's in Netherlands. Those machines are only built by those guys. Are Mexican. Bankarization. What is very important? Who here has a bank account? Can you raise your hand? Okay, you're the exception of the rule, because only the 20% of the people in Mexico has an account in the bank. The rest, cash only, day by day. And has no access to credit, and has no access to credit history, and that's why they cannot invest in all of this. They cannot have the investment to Fibra Monterrey or any other Fibra, and cannot have the access for creating their own company or having the possibility to invoice their services. And that's why it's important to have this, because this gives us the opportunity to be part of the economical system. So, have a credit card, don't use it, but have it. And the most important benefit or opportunity that we have, as I mentioned before, the development of the knowledge that we have. You're all here because you want to learn, you want to make bigger your knowledge, your capacities to have a better life. Well, we can have all of that here in the country. The development of the economy, the development of the knowledge. If you cannot have or create your own opportunities and your own knowledge, you are not free. That's it. If you can be the one that creates your opportunities, to create your own money, to create your own knowledge, you are making something that a lot of people here in this country and around the world cannot. And we have the opportunity to make sure that happens to all of us. So, be part of that. And remember, the fourth apocalypse riders are the enemy. Well, not the enemy, but are the competitors. Not us. Not between the universities, not between the careers or colleges. We all, when we go out of the college, we will find guys that are coming from all around the country, from all around all the universities, and start with that competition that it's kind of stupid. Why is that? Because as I mentioned, the competitor is not Mexico, is not Tec de Monterrey, is not Tecnológico de Querétaro, is not Universidad de Nuevo, is India, is Vietnam, is China. Those are the real competitors, not between us. And that's something that you have to learn. That will be all on my side. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the university, we want to thank our